Hey guys, welcome back. I am so excited because I have Jake Payne, one of our students and coveted brands that we've been working with for about 6 to 8 months now. And today, really in this case study interview, we are going to be covering how Jake went from selling on Etsy to being able to go from $500 months to breaking 10K a month in this year. And I'm so pumped because Jake is someone who is an action taker. He's an entrepreneur that tries a bunch of stuff, and so I think we've got a ton of juicy things for you today. If you're new to this channel, what we do is we help you with actionable strategies to help you launch and scale your e-commerce brand. So if you're into that, be sure to hit subscribe. But where I always love to start is hearing a little bit about you, Jake, and also but a little bit about your brand, emfprotectiongear.com. What I love about it is I really love working with products that teach me something, and yours wasn't an industry or even like a pain point that I really understood until we started working together. So I'd really love to start there. So who is Jake and what is EMF protection?
Khierstyn, you're awesome. Thanks so much for having me on the show. I'm so pumped. Yes. So EMF protection gear started a couple of years ago. I got involved with this because I was connected with some people that were into some different things that I were, and they were into like some crystals and all this stuff. And I was like, this is so feng shui, so weird. What's up with this? And I was like, but there's something to it. And just they were so excited about it. And I was like, all right, I have to check this out. And, I got my background in physics. I got my undergraduate degree and studied radiation in college. And I started to go down the rabbit hole, and I was like, wait a second, this is actual science, like the piezoelectric effect that crystals hold energy and information, and started learning that there's certain things and certain crystals that can help protect you against radiation. And then I started learning about all this radiation around us and how 5G is rolling out and Wi-Fi and cell phones, and how, we hear about some things in the news, but we don't really bubble it up to the news because we're all just so addicted to our technology. And so I know it's like we're all like, oh, I'm addicted to social media. And we all know we're addicted to our cell phones. And we know that, like, certain things on social media are not good for our minds, but we don't talk about how the actual technology works and the radiation works. And so
because we can't see it. So people just think, if you talk to me about radiation or 5G, the response I get at parties are like, oh, that's so woo, it's BS.
Yep.
I have so many questions already, but I'll leave that. I love that you are a physics science mind, and you're talking about like actual physical energy we can measure through crystals, which we're getting to, guys. We're getting to what EMF protection gear is. And yes, let's get into that.
Right. Yeah. And so I started learning, found what those exact stones and crystals were, put it inside of a phone case, and other products that shield and protect you. So I sell those on my store. I started selling it on Etsy, and then I was like, okay, I want to scale this thing. Let's put it on the website. Let's see if we can drive traffic. Started learning about all these things, and then found you guys, and then took it to the next level.
Yeah. And what's really interesting, so we have crystals, and we have that your phone cases and other gear are, I guess they're made from the crystals that help keep the radiation of the phone within the phone. Is that how it works?
Yeah, actually, it doesn't. There's certain products on the market that completely block radiation. And, normally I'm all about that, because you want to remove yourself. It's the only thing you can really do. But with your cell phone, you actually want it to have radiation because you want your cell phone to work, right? You don't want it to just, your cell service.
Wi-Fi and cell service, yeah.
So if you block that cell service, your cell phone's gonna work up to 10,000 times harder, and it's gonna emit up to 10,000 times more radiation. So our cell phone cases use this one rock called shungite, and shungite is only found in one place in the whole world. The guys who studied it in '96 won the Nobel Prize Award for discovering that it's the only known material in the world that's got a molecule called fullerenes. And it's the most powerful antioxidant in the world. There's peer-reviewed studies that they blasted rats with radiation. The ones that weren't covered with shungite got cancer. The ones that were covered with shungite were fine. And there's all these other studies that, like, they put shungite inside of beehives. The beehive got like 2 to 3 times larger, because bees, this whole bee epidemic, a part of this is because all the wireless radiation. It messes with bees' navigation system. So the shungite makes your body makes the radiation more harmonious with your body. And so, when I first started using it, I had a tingling sensation in my hand that started going away. And a lot of other people have had a lot of great results too. So it more like harmonizes the radiation and makes it less harmful.
Oh, I love that. Guys, have you heard of shungite before? Let us know below. I love that. And do you have any resources for someone who is listening to this and are like, okay, this sounds awesome, I want to learn more? What's like one recommendation that like a resource you'd send people to?
Yeah, I would say just go to our website and subscribe. So just put in your email. We're always sending out great info. We've got a newsletter, we've got a blog, and we put a lot of great stuff on social media too. But definitely, if you go to the website and subscribe, that's the best place.
I love that. So usually the brands we work with will either start on their own website and then move over to Amazon, or they're Amazon sellers that then move off to their own website to, scale that way. And you're kind of an outlier because you are one of the only people we've worked with that started on Etsy and then expanded. So I would love to kind of hear your thought process behind why you started on Etsy, and then what was the moment that you decided that you had to actually get off Etsy to expand?
Yeah, so for me, it was a really roundabout way of doing everything. So I started actually on Amazon, got off Amazon after I started learning how to grow things that you can't really like own your own data and all these things. But at the same time, I was like, okay, well, now I'm on Amazon. What else can I get on? Well, I can get on Etsy. And I was going through some life changes. I was moving. I was going through a big breakup and all these things. Yeah. And all of a sudden, like, I quit selling on Amazon, but all of a sudden I just started getting sales on Etsy. And I was like, wow, this is great. Okay. Because the thing about Etsy is like it's SEO based. And so it took time, and I forgot I was even on. And I think I even had my personal email. And then like a month later, I just started getting a couple sales and then more sales. And I was like, okay, this is actually working. And so it started growing, and I'm like, all right, well, let's see what we can do. And then grew it from like a couple sales to a couple thousand a month, and started hiring a few people to like kind of give me pointers, and it was working. And then I realized there was a threshold. I'm like, people are just buying a phone case and then they're gone. Like, I can't upsell them. I can't sell them more product. I don't have an email list. I don't have a business I'm in control of. Like, even when I was working on Amazon, I would get kicked off. I would get banned. And there was like things like completely outside of my control. I'm like, I'm not really running a business here. Like, I want to really grow, and I know this isn't going to pay the bills. So, and this is what I wanted to do. Gotcha.
So you went from, I love the accidental success story. We're like, oh, wait, I'm selling. I forgot to take the listing down, and then go from here.
I was actually in Mexico traveling, and I was like, oh, snap, I got to get home. I got to ship these out.
Yeah. And so here, what I love about your market is you have a market that, would you say you sell based on pain or pleasure?
Pain.
Okay. So because pain is a big driver of sales, because we hear that, hey, we're doing molecular cell damage by just walking around and not protecting ourselves. And when you can educate the consumer in the right way, you create a market for yourself. And I know that the EMF market, I would say, it's definitely not mainstream. It's not like selling mattresses, but there's a certain segment of people that want to be informed, want to be educated, kind of those outliers. And what I love is I feel like you didn't really have to validate your product. Is that right? Or like, how did you know that this was a product that you did want to pursue when early stage Amazon, getting on Etsy, like?
Well, for me, it's kind of like the same thing with what you were saying of, it's very different. Not a lot of people know about it, but that's where, when I started doing this, I really got a revelation of the internet and how big the world is. You're like, okay, you may know one guy who thinks EMFs do something, but we all think he's kind of crazy, right? It's like, all right, you conspiracy theorist, whatever. Like, I use my cell phone and my life's not going to change, right? And I'm like that too. I mean, hey, I became passionate about this topic because I thought it was fascinating. But I still use a cell phone every day. I'm installing technology every day. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not going to go live in the woods and
with hats and
Yeah, like I'm just not. That's not me. Like I want to live, and so I wanted to be in harmonious with these things. So I started to find out, well, if there's one guy that I know, and you live in Toronto, and there's one guy you know, and if there's one guy in every town, that's like hundreds of thousands and millions of people. And so I'm like, well, let's niche down. This actually works.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of people out there that, they always say niche down, and I started to niche down. I'm like, okay, it actually works. Like there's something out there for everybody. And if somebody already has that inkling, like it's really, really, really small niche, but those people that are in that are very passionate about it. They're very passionate about their health and toxins. And like a lot of people already know about shungite, and it's very, very small, but that's a lot better, right? You have raving fans and people are really excited. Most people and that's what's cool about my brand is I'll get a lot of hate. People think I'm crazy, but then also the people that like me, they love me. And I'm like, well, I can do that.
And polarizing marketing is brilliant marketing.
Yeah.
So, and you're in one of those like really lucky niches. I know someone listening who's like, man, I sell coffee beans. It's about taking the essence behind what you're doing and seeing what the real motivations are for purchase. So then you get some success on Etsy. You decide that you want to grow your own brand and just to have something you can control. Why did you choose Shopify?
I think just because I knew I think I did a little bit of research and it was the easiest. And I think a lot of people, it's like the number one thing. I know there's other things out there. But that's just what I was directed to. And I was like, all right, well, this makes sense. And it was easy enough for me to figure it out. And so that's pretty much how I got on it. No real big analytical reason.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I can do a whole post on like Shopify versus other platforms. If you're interested in that, let me know below. But in saying that, you get onto Shopify, and then at what point did you turn on ads? Was that right away, or did you delay a few months?
I think I delayed a few months. I don't think I got onto ads until about when we started working with you guys. I think we started working with you guys in January, and it was just getting things organized. Like, oh my God, people think it's so simple. Actually, I was talking to a friend of mine who just quit her job to start a business. And she's just like, you look at her social media, she's very stylish. She's a good looking girl. She does all these things. But then it's like, I was talking to her, she's like, man, it's hard making it look like the way you want it to look like.
Yeah.
Like all the littlest things take so much time. And so getting things organized, loading in, getting just getting all my ducks in a row, and some of the things that you guys had recommended to lay down foundations, I think took about a month and a half, maybe 2 months. Gotcha. So, I actually at the beginning of the year, going into 2022, I had like $134 in revenue in all of 2021. So I launched like Christmas. Maybe I had some friends buy some stuff. And then in January, I had like $500 on the website. Not exactly sure. Probably a lot of that was organic. And then it really started to go up there from there with ads as things went on. I don't know what it was for February, but...
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's super cool, because in 6 months, to go from 500 or 134 in the last 12 months to tripling that in January to seeing the growth you have now that, like we spoke about a month ago, you had broken that 10K mark. And I'm sure that's just going to keep going up from this point. But you figured out the foundations and basically created a 6-figure business for yourself in 6 months, arguably, of getting on your own website, which is pretty awesome.
I didn't think about it like that, but yeah, that's true. Yeah.
One question I know people are thinking is like, all right, sure, it's all ads. But you said a key thing earlier on like, hey, I was waiting to turn on ads until I got some of the foundational things that we recommended. What were some of the things that you put in place to make sure that you were going to see results once you turned on ads?
So I made sure that I built out Klaviyo a little bit more. So I had some basic flows. I think I had 1 or 2 upsells, and just made sure that my product listings were good. So made sure I had decent photos, some decent keywords, some decent just listings. Looking back on it, a lot of the stuff is just bad. And that was actually the impressive thing was like, it doesn't have to be perfect. Like we think it has to be perfect. And I still look at my website almost daily and I'm like, man, what have I been doing? Like, there's so much that gets missed, but yet people still buy it, you know? So I think the main thing was just making sure that it's somewhat user friendly, getting decent pictures, the email flows. I think those were the main things that, and then also maybe some social media stuff, started to reach out to influencers a little bit.
You're not giving yourself credit for one big thing, though. You mentioned something about just ugly website, and designers will fight you all the time. It was the sales copy that you seriously improved, like the version 1 of your store to version 2 or 3, 6 weeks later, when you're like, all right, how is it now? Your copy, you were able to really go from, hey, look at my cell phone case, to going into copy that really speaks to what you're actually selling. And yes. I think that the copy is the reason that your website converts. So it's not good social media. Yes, Klaviyo, all those matter. But at the end of the day, when you have traffic coming to your website, if you can't get your consumer to identify with the message and what you're trying to do, if they don't resonate with your site, no one's buying. And I think that was one of the biggest differerences we saw in your site in the beginning.
Yes. 100%. Even today, I wrote some bullets for I'm redoing a different version because I just changed one product page and it went from like a 1.5, 1.4 conversion rate to 2.5 just because I redid some of the bullets.
Yeah, like you changed what, 400 characters?
Yeah.
It's
and
incredible.
Instead of like drop proof, you just spice it up and you're like, doesn't slip out of your hand, or like, you know, never have to worry about breaking it on the concrete. You know, you just add that spice to it. I'm like, God, that sounds so simple, but it's reviewing it over and over and over again.
And listening to comments that come in on social, questions that come in, and things like that, because your customers are really going to tell you where they're getting stuck and what is preventing them from buying.
Yeah, 100%.
So, and then in the beginning, because I think that brands jump to ads too quickly because they think it's a miracle pill. It's not. But you got the foundations at this point. So like, I think January to March, you're working on getting the site kind of organically converting. What marketing were you doing? What kind of channels were you tapping into, consistently or not, before ads?
Really just posting on Instagram.
Okay.
And that actually worked great. I did like a reel a day challenge. I think we talked about it.
Awesome.
That was a long time ago. And you're like, yeah, if you did something for 90 days, how would it change your business? And I took that seriously. And I actually did a reel a day. And that was awesome. It got me on camera. It got me no longer nervous. Actually, I need to start doing that again because I increased my followers from like a couple hundred to like 2,500 within like a month and started having fun with it. And then you know, I had reels that got like 10,000 views and I only had a couple thousand followers.
Yeah.
And I was like,
super
this is
awesome.
Yeah. And I was like, it was fun. And so that was something that probably the biggest thing that I did that I don't give enough money. Like I probably should still keep doing that because that was working. It took a lot of effort and time to like mentally get over some of those challenges, but I think that was by far the biggest one.
Yeah, TikTok, but this isn't a coaching call.
So, I still need to do that.
You know what people really struggle with? Sellers, if you're listening, video is king. If you are not on video yourself or your brand, and it's not a primary focus in your marketing in 2023, you will be left behind. Instagram is going a Reels only platform in October. That doesn't mean they're shifting away from photos, but that means that they're prioritizing short form video. So Jake, what I'd love to do is kind of talk through what sort of content you posted. You are one of the kind of the outliers of e-commerce owners that want to put their face on camera. I just want to preface by saying you don't have to go that route, but I would love to dig into a little bit of what were some of the posts that you did on Reels, because it's really not that hard or that scary to get started.
Yeah, and I think that the post that I did was just trying to, you know, from the very, very small sales training I got, I think just from you and then a few other people that I followed, they're like, it's all about pain and it's all about pleasure. It's about amplifying the pain. I'm like, all right, well, shoot, here we go. Yeah. You know, so all I did was talk about the pain. I'm like, did you know we're way beyond safety reason, standards. Did you know, and I would just like list off all the different bad side effects, or I would list off like, there's a cell tower in your neighborhood and here's how you can find it. Like I would just amplify the crap out of the pain.
Yeah.
And I think I got into, and this is something that I think helped me get credibility early, is that I did put my face on, because I remember I was working with this one guy and he was an offshore guy, and it's just so much of the posts we did were just like stock photo stuff, product based. We only had a couple hundred followers. I was like, dude, we just look like scam. And I'm embarrassed in what we're doing. I was like, I can't do this. Like, let me put it out there. I'll be this little micro influencer until I can take my face off of it. But I have to put a face to a name or nobody's going to trust this. Like, I just did. That's why I did it. I'm like, all right, whatever it takes. Like, to me, the pain of not making sales was greater than the pain of looking like an idiot, and getting made fun of by my friends and family, which did happen. But by and large, everybody was like, hey, this is awesome. Like, I love watching your stuff every day. It was fun.
We just have to get over, I think, the pain of the first 100 videos, and then you start to find your voice, and then you're like, oh, cool, I'm helping people. I can get over my fear of looking like an idiot.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So, which I love. So you did, because what you did was a really smart education campaign, if you think about it. Because you're targeting people that either know about radiation, are actively trying to keep away from it, or they're actually health conscious and don't know much about the side effects of radiation. So by you tapping into that with like, did you know, or there's a cell tower, or these side effects that you weren't aware of, educates people and opens them up to a solution which you sell. Mm-hmm. It's very smart. And that is the way that we want to have reels and test different angles and really see what resonates with our audience that way.
And not only that, I always find myself over-engineering something. I'm like, I gotta educate them on this, this, and this, and this. And like, I remember, so far we've reached out to over 600 influencers. Awesome. And that number should like quadruple over the next month. But just because that's not near enough. But I think like the first 400, we only got a handful of people that were interested. And then we just switched up the message we were sending people and made it way more simple and way more straightforward. People are like, oh yeah, I'm about it. Before, like if you give people too much information, it's like, well, I don't know. Do you have proof? All this stuff. It's like, dude, it just needs to be easy. And I'm like, it's just straightforward. Yeah. Like what you're saying.
Hey, blank, we have a phone case that helps block radiation and increase your lifespan. Do you mind if I send you one to try?
They're like, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Rather than, we're trying to do this, this, and that. It's just like, I don't know. You'll never get a response. But with this, they're like, yeah, what's the coupon code? Like, it's great.
It's so good. Oh my God, there's so much here. And then, so I'd love to talk about Facebook ads. And again, this can be a whole other video because I can just talk in tangents for days. But so you finally decided to get onto Facebook ads. And in the beginning, I think it was the first 2 weeks, you spent a bunch of money and got no sales.
Yep.
Right? And then something changed and you were like, oh my God, I got sales. So what did you change to go from, I don't know if Facebook is viable for me, to, oh, okay, it's working?
For me, I just had this internal belief that it was possible. And so, I know that's the way that it can go, right? And I can pay somebody else a lot of money, which I didn't have, to do this.
Yeah.
Or I could just take like 2 or 3 times longer and have like an education. And in the future, I could farm it out. But at the meantime, like, this is a skill I have to learn. And so I just started a bunch of creatives and just testing it and just trial by fire, and wasted a couple, $1,000. But after letting it go on long enough and testing enough creatives at low enough budgets that I could afford, then I'm like, okay, wait a second. I had to click through and understanding what metrics to go off of. And I was like, okay, there's so many different metrics. Which 3 do I need to look at? Okay, this one, click-through rate, CPM, and,
CTR.
overall CTR, whatever. And those were like the main 2. And then obviously purchases, right? At the end of the day, it's that.
Oh, it's huge.
So, I started looking at those things, and I'm like, okay, well, what can I do to increase the CTR? What can I do to increase? Like, everything was about the CTR. And then it was like, okay, now I'm getting a ton of people on the page, but nobody's buying. made a couple of changes to the landing page, boom, purchases went up at least a little bit. And then I'm like, okay, let's increase the CTR again, and then like increase that. So just trying over and over and over again until something worked. So
yeah. And a lot of people, like inexperienced brands, go to Facebook and they expect to get 10 sales overnight. It's just not the way the cookie crumbles.
yeah.
I forget where that reference is from, but so we do Facebook ads. You're scaling, and to I guess close off what some of your initiatives right now, you're definitely increasing influencer marketing, which is huge. And you just got started with SMS. How is that going for you?
It's going great. I need to look at the data on that because I pretty much started from zero. I had a small email list, and I think I had some phone numbers, but I pretty much just changed the pop-up, signed up with the team, and it's been going great. Already I think in the first like week or two I had a couple $100 in sales, and it's actually really interactive. I love how the program that we signed up with, it follows up with you. It has all this different different flows that it's all managed. Yeah, templates, got emojis on there. I'm like, man, this is great. I didn't even respond, and they sent me another message, and I'm like, this is great. So yeah, I'm a big fan.
Hey guys, that's Emotive if you're wondering, and no, this is not a sponsored video. But it's crazy because like one of the brands that we just launched a couple months back, so starting from zero with SMS, it accounted for 23% of our sales, and we were hitting 5-figure months within a few weeks. Like it's nuts. So SMS, and I love the founder because like at first there was a bit of resistance because they're like, I don't think our demographic wants SMS. So we pulled up Google Analytics, and I was like, 86% of your traffic is on mobile. So you have to meet your customer where they are. So if you can make it easier for someone to purchase and interact with you by phone, that's why SMS is so powerful.
Yeah, 100%.
As well. Couple questions. What has surprised you about the process? Just going through, starting to get traction and see what works in testing, like what has surprised you as an entrepreneur?
How my emotions lie to me.
Go on.
I think that's really the biggest piece is just, I think I'm going to die. I think I'm going to die. And then I live. And, I think I'm not going to make it. I think I'm not going to make it. And then I'm going to make it. I psych myself up, and then, I change my beliefs. And then all of a sudden, when it seems to be like there's not going to be a way, the way always comes out when I believe it is.
Yeah.
And it's like that always happens. That's been a mental thing, but now it's a belief. Another thing is now I really understand it's truly about the process. Like it's about, are you going to test it, try it, test it, try it, improve it, improve it, improve it, and then just like get better and better, right? Like for me, it was like, okay, ads seem to be working, let's spend it. And then I'm like, wow, we spend way too much money, but we got a lot of sales. Now, how can I become more profitable, right? Yeah. And it's like, maybe throttle back the spend on the sales, change your fundamentals a little bit, and then come back again. So that's for me just like, wow, it's truly about the process and truly about serving people. I know everybody says that and it's so cliche, but if you can put your eyes in their shoes and be like, how would I want to be served? Okay, like this, boom, like that.
Yeah, which is wild. But so in terms of people wondering how Jake and I have worked together, he's part of our one of our group coaching programs that aims to work with e-commerce sellers to actually teach them to be marketers and to be CEOs of their own e-commerce company as they scale. So Jake was one of our, I'd say like the poster child, because he is someone who has a great product, a bit of market traction, is very open to learning, and is very open to just kind of doing balls to the wall testing. And I think that, Jake, you had a very realistic view of what success is going to take, because it's not linear. Things don't seem like they're going to work out a lot of the time. but you just keep going and you look at overall success in the last 6 months. And I think that you've set yourself up for like a really solid business. And of course, your problems are going to get much bigger as you scale. But I think that your journey's been really, really cool to watch behind the scenes, from like, it's not working, I'm freaking out, I'm angry, to, oh my God, people are buying. My ads are starting to work. Whoa, I got a good review. And just to see that is like, oh, it's an emotional roller coaster, but so
it is for sure.
So,
and it's like, it's, for me, it's also like, wow, I'm actually helping people. And people are thanking me for what I'm doing. And I'm like, okay, now that I'm getting traction, I'm like, it's a lot easier to work on things and it's less stressful. It's like, okay, this will work or this can work. So, and how can I buy back my time to add more value and delegate this to somebody else? So that's been another big, big learning the past 6 months too.
I love that. Yeah, because as the team starts to grow, you're like, how do I replicate myself?
Yeah.
And keep the quality up there, right?
Mm-hmm. For sure.
I love it. So I'm curious. So first off, if anyone is interested in learning a little bit more about some of our group coaching opportunities and e-commerce mastermind, be sure to check out some of the both free and paid resources below this video. But Jake, I would love to know, if somebody asks what it's been like working with us, how would you describe it?
I think it's been great. I think it's really, really been great because when I first got in, there was a lot of people in the community, but not a lot of people really took a lot of action or really took, full ownership. And there definitely, and that's kind of the same thing with everything, right? With the 80-20, right? Yeah. And so I just jumped right in and I was like, wow, I can actually get a lot of one-on-one quality time. And there's a lot of different calls. There's the Monday with so-and-so. There's the ads calls, the other team member, and there's like twice a week calls with you and all these things. I was like, wow, I'm actually getting a lot of FaceTime with a lot of people. Like, Khierstyn maybe specialized in this overall, visionary leadership, but then Gabby and team may be great with ads. And so I was like, okay, well, I can't join every call this week, but I know I can do this, this, and this. Yeah. And so, just taking advantage of it. And I think you guys have been, down to earth. I'll get a lot of really good quality time, because normally if you're going to pay one-on-one time with somebody, it can get expensive. If I paid for an hour of your time for a consultation, I'm sure it would be a lot. But being a part of the community and just having access to things, I'm like, wow, this is a huge value compared to the small fee I paid at the beginning. I've definitely surpassed that, as time has went on, for sure.
And that's our goal. That is our goal. So I guess I have two final questions. One is, what is one piece of advice that you would give to your younger self who is just starting this journey?
Do things right the first time.
What does that mean? Sorry, follow-up questions.
I mean,
what does that mean?
Like, do things the best you can. Don't rush through things. Like, I got so intimidated. I'm like, oh my God, there's so many things to do. I got to get it all done. And I just got to get it done. It's about getting it done, and it's about moving on to the next task. It's like, no, it's about mastering this thing, or not even, just giving it your best effort here, knowing that it's not perfect, but I'll come back to it later on. And so, like, not skipping over it, making progress, and just going for it. I find myself having to pay for a lot of mistakes. I'm like, dang it. Like, a lot of it is unknown, but I'm like, wow, if I would have done this to start, I'm already thinking, like, right now I'm shipping all my product to a fulfillment center, and I'm like, praise God, I'm no longer have to ship this out myself. But I'm like, man, I'm going to have to spend so much time redoing all this stuff, getting things updated again. And I'm like, this is so much work if I would have just done it right the first time.
I get it. Yeah. And just better workflows and starting to increase your productivity. And I totally get that. And then my final question is there something I should have asked you that I haven't?
Ooh, that's a great question. I would probably say, I don't know. I think you asked a lot of good questions. I'll say this. It really is about being a marketer and being people focused. It really is. Like I had no idea, and now that I'm starting to like see some traction, I'm like, okay, it truly is about being a person and treating people like people, whether that's your team members, people on social media, or whatever. And so, like what you said, we train people to be marketers and CEOs of their business. It's like that's exactly what it is. It's not trying to become someone else or being a media buyer where you're just looking at data or one day I'll just be able to go on the beach and just never be involved. It's like,
Yeah.
no, it's really about like communicating to a person, seeing somebody, like, do I have a customer avatar? What's her name? And what am I saying to her when I'm writing an email or copy? It's not buy, 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 buy. It really is, okay, she probably took care of her kids today. How would this relate to her kids? How could I be a blessing? How could I focus on them? How could I make their life easier? What would something that if I was in their position, would I have to follow 10 steps to get what I want? No, I hate it like that,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Man, I love it. Couldn't have said it better myself. So if people want to learn more about EMF protection gear or just whatever, what is a good place to send them?
Yeah, you can just go straight to our website, emfprotectiongear.com, or you can follow us on Instagram at emfprotectiongear. So we get posted a lot of great information. Feel free to check it out.
I can't wait to see you posting more reels. Awesome. Well, this has been great. Guys, be sure to say thanks to Jake for coming in and taking his time, kind of letting me dissect his business. I love doing this. I love getting into the mind of other entrepreneurs to see what's been working and what hasn't. But apart from that, if you are enjoying this kind of content, be sure to hit subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.